Today on the Ten12 Softball Show, myself and Lea are joined by Jenna Becerra to recap a wild Week 7 of the Big 12, including Iowa State's sweep of UCF, UCF's big win over Florida on Wednesday, and look ahead to the weekend that will be with some great softball action and where teams stack up in the RPI. Plus, Iowa State outfielder Angelina Allen joins the show to talk about interning in Major League Baseball.
Don't you love it when things are both easier and more affordable? Like when the rain washes your car for you. Or like when you save up to 10% by bundling your renters and auto insurance with USAA. Bundle with USAA and start saving. Get a quote today.
It's time for basketball, and Uber Eats is dropping deals on game day favorites to keep you locked in on the action. Like when you're craving a buzzer beater, but also buffalo wings. Or when an upset makes you want to ugly cry into a pizza. And right now, Uber Eats has game day deals from Burger King, Buffalo Wild Wings, KFC, and hundreds more local favorites. So you can keep your eyes on the ball and your hands on a burger. Order now, only on Uber Eats. Product availability varies by region. See app for details.
Hey, here's what you need to know about Charlie Hustle. It's that they are going to have more great sales this weekend. They are trying to clear some stuff out of the way. They're going to have 25% off all fleece, 40% off all quarter zips, $100 all off on all bomber and varsity jackets, $20 off all long sleeve, and $16 college sale t-shirts. So all the shirts that are on sale will be marked down to $16. They are trying to clear out a lot of their winter stock, and they are going to have great deals, like I just mentioned, for you on everything, especially the Big 12 gear. And they've got gear for all 16 teams, and it is all good stuff. So charliehustle.com this weekend. If you find something that's not on sale and you want it, use our promo code 1012network, TEN, the number 12, the word network, gets you 15% off all non-sale items. So when the sale is over, you can use that promo code then on everything that's not on sale as well. Remember, that's 1012network, TEN, the number 12, the word network, Charlie Hustle, vintage made fresh. Welcome to the 1012, the podcast that covers all 16 teams in the Big 12 Conference. We are the flagship show, the 1012 Network. Find every show on the network at 1012network.com. And of course, we are partners with Sports Social, Europe's biggest sports podcast network. I'm your host, Phillip Slavin. Thank you for joining us for this Thursday. You know what happens on Thursdays. We talk softball, the 1012 Softball Show. Joining us, as she does every week, the trash talk queen of the 1012 Network, and as I've been told, the trash talk queen of Iowa State by our guest today, Angelina Allen. She is, I've forgotten all of the titles that I have given you, but she is, of course, Iowa State softball alum, Lea Nelson.
Woo, I don't know if I want to go down as the best trash talk queen of all of Iowa State, but I'll take it. And I'm excited to talk about Iowa State softball this week. Obviously, we know it was great, and that's why Eric's not on this week, because he was too scared.
I was wondering who was going to get that line out. I was really curious who was going to use that one.
That was early too.
I had to get it in. I had to get it in before I forgot, and I'm just so glad, Jenna, you were able to join us. But you know, Eric, he's quaking. He's nervous. That's why he couldn't be on.
Look, Eric is out celebrating after UCF pulled off the 4-0 midweek win over number 4 Florida. So huge win there. So in his stead, very excited to have another rep from D1 softball. She is Jenna Becerra. Jenna, welcome back to the 1012.
Thank you. I'm super excited to be here. I feel like my intro wasn't as cool as Leah's, but you know, whatever. We'll just let it slide.
I've had a lot more practice with her and Eric, and I should have asked you beforehand, like, can you please list some titles? Okay, so Jenna, let's see. We will call you our Pac-12 guru, as someone who covered the conference for a long time and always excited to have you on to talk about those schools. Lea, help me out here. We gotta do a little.
What?
We gotta add some titles for Jenna.
Legendary, bad ASS.
Earmuffs, kids. Earmuffs.
That's why I spelled it out.
My 6-year-old could spell. Okay, she's getting to spelling, so they get that early. Like I'm starting to realize, like, earmuffs only works, like spelling it out only works to a certain age, and then they start to like and she's gonna work it out. So we're having.
I apologize. Just beep it out.
we spelled, no, it's fine. We spelled something the other day and she was like, is it this? And we're like, oh no, spelling
You
is
hit
out the
that
window.
point. Yeah.
Let's just start texting each other like in front of the children. Be like,
She's smart.
Yes,
At least she can spell.
I know. I'm proud of her. She's awesome. Okay, so we are here today to talk about some Big 12 softball. We've got things to celebrate, things to complain about. I will not mention the Kansas score and jinx it at the moment. So let's dive in. I mean, look, we have to start off with the easily the most shocking upset of the Big 12 season, arguably one of the biggest upsets of college softball season, with Iowa State going down to Orlando, sweeping UCF this past weekend. Of course, as I mentioned, Angelina Allen of Iowa State's gonna be our guest. We'll talk with her about that coming up. But Lea, here's your 5 minutes. Just what do you want to say? This is your program. This is one we've talked about. I want to take some credit for having Coach Pink on last week, and then they get the sweep. So with Angelina this week, I assume they're going to have another good weekend.
Right.
But let's hear your thoughts.
Man, oh man. I mean, credit Iowa State, credit Coach Pink. I feel bad not taking them to win the series, let alone get a sweep. And Coach Pink did call me out for that. So, and I know he's listening. Coach Pink, I apologize. I got you the rest of the season. But incredible. They seemed like a different team. And I know Eric and I were kind of going back and forth the last time we recorded and on what Iowa State needed to do to be able to win. And they were close with Ole Miss and Houston, but they weren't able to shut the door, finish the game. It seemed like nerves, a young team kind of got in the way, but that was the complete opposite for Iowa State this past weekend against UCF. Incredible. They were able to shut the door. Close games, obviously. 2-0 with 9 innings, 3-2 and 1-0. I mean, credit to the freshman middle infielders, Jesse Clemens, Serenity Trice. They do not look like freshman infielders at all. They look like they've been playing Big 12 softball for a long, long time. Credit to the young pitching staff. But yeah, Iowa State they looked comfortable. They looked like they didn't care who they were playing. They were just playing good softball. I think Alex Powers said it the best. She said, the game of softball doesn't know who's supposed to win. They don't know who's supposed to win on paper. And that's exactly how Iowa State played. And I think looking back, like, it's easy to let the name on the jersey totally get in the way and kind of cloud your vision. I mean, I was in their shoes, and I'm not going to lie, when I would, play and I would see Texas, Oklahoma State, it was easy to let that get in the way of how you play, but that was not Iowa State. They played incredibly. I was so proud of them. I think it's a good mix between a veteran of Angelina Allen, Mo in left field, and like a group of young girls that they mesh well together. And I'm just excited, and I hope they continue to keep playing this way. It was hype. It was so exciting. I didn't trash talk Eric. I want everyone to know that. I did not say anything mean. I kept my mouth shut. I know he was probably going through it, but I know he was kind of excited for Iowa State too, because he's a big fan of Coach Pink as well.
As we all are.
Right.
Jenna, what were your thoughts on this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, you didn't trash talk Eric, but he didn't show up. So, I don't know what that says.
Thank you, Jenna. I knew I liked you.
Just saying. But no, I mean, I think you touched on a lot of great things. Like Alex Powers took the words right out of my mouth. The game doesn't know who's supposed to win. The game also doesn't know how old you are. So you were giving some credit to freshmen and underclassmen as well. I think that's important to note too. Because yes, of course, that leadership and experience is always going to be important and helpful. But sometimes when the young ones aren't thinking too much and aren't worried about it and aren't playing that name game, that does make the difference as well. And I know you mentioned the pitchers briefly too, but I just got to give them a shout out. They only gave up 2 runs the entire time. 2 bookend shutouts, right? But 2 runs, period. Not like earned runs versus runs overall. Definitely have to give them that shout out, and the fact that it was the first road series sweep since 2021. So I think hype was the right word. I like that word. I do have to give credit for UCF to bouncing back, against Florida, of course. But this weekend, Iowa State really sent a message.
And look, it's interesting now to be able to have this conversation as we record this on Wednesday night with the bookend of UCF shutting out Florida, because UCF had been on a 1-6 after going to Arizona and winning that series. They'd gone 1-6, been shut out 4 times, and then they get this win over Florida. And I think it speaks to both of these programs. I mean, again, if you had told me Iowa State was going to sweep UCF, I would have thought that it was just like the pitchers were all terrible and it was a bunch of runs. I would not have picked Iowa State to score 6 runs on the weekend and get a sweep. But I think it speaks to, we've talked about this, I think the Big 12 is really young this year. It's a young conference, and you're seeing these teams continue to work through their development. You saw the young players for Iowa State step up. You saw the youth of UCF and their struggles this past weekend. But you can see now we're starting to see what the highs of Iowa State are when they're clicking. We've seen the highs of UCF, and we just saw it again tonight against Florida of UCF. The highs for these teams who are young, there's a lot of talent on these rosters. It's just that they're young and working through these things. And that's a positive. Like, it's positive to know, okay, it's not young and I don't know if this is going to work. It's young and, okay, we see the potential. We've talked about this with Utah. Yeah, they've struggled, but we can see the bright spots. It's seriously, every roster in this conference, there's not what I would consider a true senior-laden roster in this conference. All our super seniors are gone. There's a lot of, sure, there's juniors and there's seniors in every roster. We had a lot of freshmen, a lot of sophomores, and it's good to see the conference as a whole continue to develop these players. It's a promising thing for the next few years as well as this year.
It makes me excited. It makes me pumped. I love having these kind of conversations because I just keep thinking of like last year. And then even when I played where it was like, all right, Texas swept another team again. Oklahoma swept another team again. It's just like, those are the powerhouses, even Oklahoma State, like it was, you could guess every single time who was going to win, who was going to go 2-1, who was going to go 3-0. And it got kind of exhausting. And now look at us with Big 12. We're like, all right, Arizona's getting upset. UCF's getting upset. We've got Baylor. We've got Oklahoma State. We've got BYU. Like, how fun is that? Like, that just makes me so happy with how softball's going. And it's a good change for Big 12 softball.
One other sweep we got to talk about, of course, is BYU sweeping Houston, which I think was the way we had kind of seen Houston playing this year and the way the offense had been clicking. I was a little bit surprising, not that BYU won the series at all, but to see BYU actually get the sweep over Houston, I think was really big. Look, we had been texting with Eric, even though he couldn't be here. And I think it's okay if we little tease. His next bracketology will have 6 Big 12 teams in it, including BYU, who you look at the current standings in the RPI for the Big 12, we got some struggles at the top. Arizona's number 1 at number 12, Oklahoma State at 15. You got 4 in the top 25, UCF at 34, though that'll come up after tonight, and BYU at 39. You've got 6 teams in the Big 12 in a really good spot. And for BYU to get that sweep over Houston, I think really speaks to, one, BYU is continuing to play good softball. And Houston was kind of the aberration we feared they were when they were sitting close to being a top 25 RPI program just a few weeks ago before Big 12 started. And now they sit here with still just 1 top 50 win. I want to give a ton of credit to BYU for going on the road and getting this series sweep. But it also makes me look at Houston and go, okay, we've a lot of, again, talented freshman class. We've seen some really high highs from them. It almost feels like that freshman class came out of the gate and played really well and is now trying to work through the struggles of playing a full season with a really, really young roster, talented young roster, but a young roster nonetheless.
I think it's interesting because, we always talk about how BYU was so close last year and they were just on the bubble, and we can talk about, scheduling and whatnot all we want, but these are the games that they have to win if they really want to make the NCAA tournament. So for them to get a sweep, that's huge, because obviously the more Big 12 teams in the tournament, the better. I mean, it just looks better for everyone else. So I'm excited for them. I am a little upset somehow for Houston. I don't know. I was just kind of feeling for them. It's just cool underdog story that we all kind of picked them to be last and they were doing so well. So it's a little kind of bittersweet, but I'm pumped for BYU. I hope they continue to get to play. I think things are kind of clicking. They're going to be kind of like comparable to your Arizona State team, Phillip, kind of like the dark horse for me, but it'll be interesting. I'm interested, Jenna, because we talk about BYU a lot, of what your insights are on that team.
Well, I think it's there's plenty, right? But like one of the things that I think is particularly interesting about them is, we talk obviously as we should and will continue to a lot about pitching, like the Nigel Kennedys, like the Ruby Malins. How do you not? But, BYU leads the conference in ERA as a pitching staff. They're the only staff that is sub 2 in ERA as a group. And I think, giving Case and Korth, for example, who leads the way there, that credit is important because, of course, you have to score runs to win. But you also have to prevent runs, right? To be able to keep yourself in the game as well, like getting back to those types of fundamentals. So for me, I feel like, and even playing against BYU back in the day, I won't tell you how long ago that was, but they were always tough. Like they were never just going to roll over. That's not their culture whatsoever. So to see this is a good sign. And to your point, yes, they have to win these games, but it's so hard to sweep somebody. It is so hard, no matter who it is.
Oh, yeah.
So to do it 3 times, right, is a big deal. And they were able to do it.
I'm so glad that you had tough experiences with BYU because I just had a memory come up on my Snapchat of us at BYU like a while ago. And I think the games were like 15 to like 13, or like we would be up by like 7. And then all of a sudden I'm like, how are they beating us by like 10? Like, I don't know if it, and I remember trying to run when we were playing there. And I'm like, like, oh, the air, it was just bad experience at BYU. So I'm glad you didn't have a great time with them as well. I mean, they're a great team. They're a great team. You nailed it on the head. They're not going to roll over. And again, to sweep a team, credit to them.
Yeah. It's really hard to sweep teams. Like
So
it's supposed to be. I know that some programs, Oklahoma, make it look easy when they do it to everyone. But again, that's Oklahoma. Haha, SEC, they're your problem now. Just thought they'd show
almost
up
everybody. Mizzou, just saying.
Oh yeah. Shout out Mizzou.
Yeah, Mizzou. Miz who? No. Look, you're the BYU pitching stuff. Like they are number 1 in the Big 12 in team ERA. They're number 1 in fielding in the Big 12. Like they're number 5 in offense. If we've seen that team's offense explode in games, when the offense is clicking, the way they are throwing the ball, the way they are playing defense, like they are sneaky, scary good. That is exactly the team that's going to go on the road somewhere to one of the air quotes better programs in the Big 12, and they're going to steal a series. Like it will not shock me if they find a way to. Oklahoma State doesn't have to play them, thank goodness. Iowa State's already enough of a pain to have to deal with. But like it's just, I know we have to. Yeah, Angelina brought up the series win last year as one of her favorite moments, and I'm just sitting there.
Let's go.
Like, that's great. Yeah. I swear, Lea, you told her to do that.
I did it. I promise. She texted me once to see who was doing the interview. I said it was Phillip, and that was it. I promise.
Sure.
That's all she needed to know.
That's all she needed to know. She's like, oh yeah, I got this. This is gonna be great. Jenna, I'm very glad you're here, and look, not just because you have such a great history with the Pac-12 and the teams out there. It's now that we have Arizona State, and Utah in the conference, and I love getting to talk about them. And yes, thank you, Lea, for pointing out that Arizona State was my preseason darling and is living up to my expectations. Let's hope they don't do what Kansas did last year and fall apart down the stretch. I was right on them. But Jenna, now that we have these programs and we're still getting used to them, Arizona coming out and looking fantastic. They're healthy. Arizona State finally healthy this year, and they're delivering on what I thought we would see. Utah, I mean, they are struggling, but they are a young team. What are your thoughts on these 3 additions to the Big 12, and how does it feel like they're fitting into this conference so far?
Yeah, I think they're fitting in well, right? I know everybody, of course, despite the Texas OU departure, but then also thinking about Texas Tech as well as Oklahoma State being at the top with Nigel Kennedy and the history of 5 World Series in a row from Oklahoma State, and then you add Ruby Malin to the mix. You focus on those teams a lot, but I'm not surprised to see Arizona do what they've done in the Big 12.
No.
I think it's Arizona, right? Historically, when we're thinking about it in terms of like the national championships and all those types of things, but there's also this element of what have you done for me lately? It's been a while since they won a national championship. but they were, you mentioned it, healthy. I don't know what was in the water in the state of Arizona last year, but all of the injuries between U of A and Arizona State was crazy. And somehow Arizona still goes to a super regional because their offense is just that absurd. So I think that part of it, them leading in all the major categories, essentially in the Big 12 offensively, not a surprise. The fact that they have the deepest pitching staff that they have had in a while with 8 arms that they've been able to use, including the 3 they lost right before the season started last year, right? Like everything has aligned nicely. They did lose a few starting infielders, but you still have your shortstop back with Beal. And then Lauren Lappin specifically works so well with the infield. I mean, she was a defensive player of the year in her days back in the Pac-10. So I'm like trying not to age myself, and I just aged her. But, I'll hear from her later about it. It's fine. But, they've been leading the country actually the last few years on the fielding side of things. And so every element of the game, they've had either improvements, more talent, more healthy people in the wings waiting to play. And of course, Devin Netz. And when you have pitchers who can hit double-digit home runs and throw, that helps, right? That helps. So
Doesn't hurt.
I think with Arizona, not surprised and excited to see them in the top 10, which feels more right. At least for those who have been around softball for a while, it feels more true to their culture and just sort of their aura, if you will, historically. Arizona State, though, I'm so glad to hear that they were your darling because unbelievably just riddled with injuries last year and just fought through every single pitch, really, every single game. And I know Megan Bartlett, like from the mental side of things, was really working with her team. It's just like, who's going to step up? We have what we have. Let's push through. I was glad to see them get a win in the Pac-12 tournament last year, in that opening game, for example. And then this year, they've been a little bit sneaky, I think. They're in the D1 softballs. They're in our top 25. They're right there at 25. For me, they're in the top 5 in terms of batting average. They're 6th in ERA, I think. They're 3.14. That's at the time coming into this recording. But, they average over 5 runs a game. Those numbers tend to work out, right, to lead to more wins. And then I have to give credit to Kenzie Brown, too, leading the pitchers. Her ERA is under 1. She has almost 140 strikeouts. Pushing 90 innings pitched. Opponents are hitting 157 against her. She gets the win over Arizona. Wasn't surprised to see that either. Weird things happen in rivalries. We talked about how hard it is to sweep. They were hosting in Tempe too, right? Like too many factors at play. I would have been more surprised had Arizona actually swept versus ASU at least taking one.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're talking about BYU and UCF and some of the big wins that they've had. ASU took the series from both of them, right? So I also think, speaking of the Pac-12, they did get wins over their former rivals with UW, Oregon, and Cal this year too, earlier in the season. So I do want to give them credit for that.
You look at what Arizona State's done, and it is, again, we keep talking about young rosters. It's a young roster, a very talented one. They've got the wins, right? As you mentioned, Cal, Oregon, Washington. They got the win over Arizona. It's 2 wins against UCF and BYU. They've got some losses that make you scratch your head, like Belmont and Oregon State and
Sure.
North Dakota. But this plays into the highs, and you're still working to bring the floor up, which I definitely feel like, and that's kind of when we had Megan Bartlett on the show, like that's one of the things we kind of talked about was this is a program that's still working to build its floor, because I think their ceiling is, I think we've seen their ceiling. Their ceiling is very high. Again, I think there's a lot of high ceilings in this conference. It's just everyone's working to build that floor up, and whoever can build that floor up the fastest, the highest, the best, they're going to have the best shot. I feel like a lot of this year is like setting up for what I think could be, barring, transfer portal, whatever, I think it'd be a really, really good 2026 season in this conference. And we're having a good, fun season now. But if all this talent continues to develop, and you look across these rosters, it's like Nisha's got another year. So does Ruby Melee. Like all these, we keep talking about all these players who transferred in and all these names we know. Oh, by the way, most of them are juniors with another year to get to play next year. Right. And I hate playing to like next season. But so much about this season is like, I'm really enjoying this year, and I'm so much looking forward to next year, because I really think this conference next year has a chance to be just like really quite good.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Utah, of course, struggling at this point. They did get the series win over Kansas this weekend, which was really a surprise. That's great for Utah. That I think kind of kills Kansas at this point. Although, nope, still not gonna say anything about it. Not gonna say anything. Don't say it. Don't say it.
Look it up.
What are your thoughts on Utah and their struggles this year? Because we talked about through the non-conference how many games that they've had leads in and chances in and have not been able to close out and have given up leads later, given up runs on errors or just mistakes that were made. What are your thoughts on this Utah program and kind of where it's at right now?
Yeah, I mean, it's a struggle this year. But I don't think that was a total unknown going into it, even if you talk to Amy Hogue, like we did for D1 Softball in our fall report. She talked a lot about how it's just a different type of play that the skill sets of the current team brings to the table versus what they are used to, especially in recent years, going to the postseason back-to-back years, and of course, the World Series a couple years ago. They're typically super speedy. They cause havoc on the base paths. They put pressure on the defense. They just don't have that as much this year. I mean, nobody on the team has more than a couple of stolen bases, and Haley Denning last year had 24 alone, let alone 3 people with double-digit stolen bases, right? Haley Denning graduates. Abby Dayton goes to Oklahoma. That's a big loss in that respect. They were also the 2 top hitters in terms of batting average, hitting over 400. 10 new people on the team in the fall. That is a lot of people to bring in to your culture, to your system, to get on the same page. And then pitching. 90% of the innings pitched nearly last year were all Mariah Lopez and Sarah Ladd. This year, they don't have those innings anymore. So they're 8th in ERA in the conference, just over 4, but they also lead in wild pitches too with almost 30. So I think the control factor is also something they'll need to work on. And then if you look at the third part of the game, so I think of it as the 3 parts, right? I mentioned how Arizona has great things going for it offensively, in the circle, defensively. So offensively, there are some changes, including speed on the base paths for Utah. Pitching, there's a lot of newness there. But even defensively, Utah has been known to have some solid defense in the past. Anissa Urtez, Hannah Flippen are 2 of the best defenders we've probably seen in softball. And that they're last in fielding percentage right now in the Big 12. That's not necessarily on brand for them. So the same way that Arizona kind of has everything aligned in all the big parts of the game, I think Utah just has a lot of newness and some challenges in every big part of the game, which is why some of the results are not exactly where they want to be. But scrappiest team I've probably played against. We talked about BYU earlier. Utah, and I said that word to Amy Hogue. I interviewed her before on the Bleav in Softball podcast, and she said she didn't used to like that term, scrappy, because she didn't know at first. It's like, does that kind of minimize us a little bit? We're scrappy. We want to be the ones, we want to be the big dogs. But she was like, if scrappy means that we don't let our opponents take a pitch off, I'm good with that. I'm good with our team and our program being associated with that. So to your point, they're young. They're those people who will ruin your day, sometimes. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that a little bit in the rest of the Big 12 season.
Well, they ruined Kansas' day this weekend, like I mentioned, getting that series win that I think is kind of poor Kansas. I'm sorry. I hate it. That last year should have been the year. Yeah. It should have been the year. And I didn't feel good about this year. I was not going to pick them as a dark horse again. I'm sorry. Okay. So let's look ahead to what we have on the slate for this weekend. As I mentioned, our guest this week, Angelina Allen of Iowa State. Absolutely fantastic interview. Great chat with her about shout out Lea for dropping in a question last minute for me. Talk about the fact that she's been doing some internships related to baseball. That's the career path she wants to do, is to go into baseball. And I'm like, okay, this is good. This is good. More softball players going into baseball and then bringing what they learn back to college softball. That's a good thing. But let's look at this weekend because we got a very interesting slate in the Big 12. Let's start with Iowa State playing their first home games of the season at the very end of March.
Yeah, but there's weather already. Did you know that?
No.
They have They think they have a doubleheader Friday and then one game Saturday. So the weather is already getting to them. At least it's not snow. I think it's rain.
Let's
Hopefully,
take a look
fingers
here.
crossed. I could have just jinxed it.
That doubleheader situation, because we've seen that a few times, even in the state of Oklahoma recently, that changes things in a series.
1,000%.
Oh,
Yeah,
So
1000%.
Friday's forecast is partly cloudy with wind. Saturday is PM showers. Showers all day Sunday.
Yeah, so I think they're doing like an early morning Saturday and then a doubleheader Friday.
I had not noticed that update.
I
they're
knew
gonna be
you would love
welcoming.
that.
Just perfect. Just they're gonna welcome Arizona State for a 3-game series. I hate the doubleheader stuff affected by rain. Just makes such a mess of things. Look, it's Iowa State trying to carry the momentum from the UCF series at home for the first time, facing an Arizona State team who's been really good. I'm very interested to see, and I don't even like talking about like carrying the momentum. Can they take what they achieved in Orlando and figure out how to hang on to some of that, retain some of kind of what they learned against an Arizona State team who, look, we talked about it, high ceilings, floors kind of up and down. I'm not picking any team to sweep. I have a hard time. I will lean Arizona State in this one, but it's a 2-1 either way for me.
Yeah, I know better. I'm gonna take Iowa State.
You don't need Coach Pink texting to be like, Lea. No. At this point, you should pick against Iowa State because that's better for them.
Maybe. Well, and also, like, I think it's going to be a little bit of an adjustment for the girls. They've been on the road for the last, 6 or 7 weeks. When I was there...
8 weeks.
Angelina
said 8 weeks.
And when I was there, we always played better on the road because that's just what you get used to. You get in a good groove. You kind of... And now you're at home. You got to... I don't know if they'll be able to go to class on Friday now that it's a doubleheader, but you kind of switch things around. Like you're not having these like early morning, like get up in stretches. You're kind of on your own. You got to get to the field when you like... It's going to be a little bit of an adjustment. We'll see if they have a good crowd there at CSC, but I'm excited. I'm going to take Iowa State 2, Arizona State 1. Jenna, what do you got? Be careful. Coach Pink might text you.
I know, but see, Bartlett will text me then too. What am I?
You're
lose. So I think I take Arizona State 2-1. Again, so hard to sweep. It's just too difficult for me to feel confident in that for pretty much anybody, let alone these two going up against each other. I do think, like you said, there's a little bit less of a home field advantage, if you will, because of everything that you've just mentioned. The weather aspect, now we're talking about double headers. And then if the weather's not great, that means less fans, so you don't get as much of that type of advantage. Like there are so many little things that go into what that could be. Although I will say that Arizona State's not used to really dealing with much weather of any kind. So that part in itself could be an advantage for Iowa State. But I do pick the Sun Devils ultimately. I'm sorry, Lea.
Hey, no hard feelings. I get it.
No dry heat in Ames, y'all.
Yeah.
No dry heat up there.
I'm actually so glad you brought up the weather aspect because that has worked for Iowa State in the past too. Because I think the rule is it's got to be above freezing, so 30-something degrees. And we were outside practicing. And it was funny because the Iowa girls were in short sleeves and the California girls were trying to wear their parkas in the outfield taking reps. And Coach Pink was like, get that off. But it was great because you get to practice, you get used to it. And then these warm weather teams come in and they are not used to it. They are freezing. They struggle. They hit the ball wrong on their bat and their hands start.
Oh, yeah.
Worst part. But I mean, you use whatever you can as an advantage. That's what I believe. So,
yep.
High of 64 on Saturday. So I feel like that's is that a winter day in Arizona?
That's summer in Iowa. So
64 and humid. That's what you can expect. Okay. Looking through, I guess we're gonna start doing the weather. Lea, you're gonna be our official 10-12 softball.
Give me a green screen.
Meteorologist as well. Can do. Oklahoma State is in the state of Georgia this weekend. They are out of conference play. They already dropped their weekend opener 4-8 to Georgia tonight. 5 errors. But they will then play at Georgia Tech on Thursday and Friday, and then a game against Penn State in Atlanta on Saturday. Apparently, Coach Gasky tried to pick up a 5th game somewhere because obviously OSU's trying to make up the 4 games they've lost because of weather so far this season, 2 to Houston and 2 when they were supposed to be in the state of Arkansas at UCA. But apparently everybody was like, no, So they'll play 4 games and come home. So we'll see what Oklahoma State can do. Obviously not a great start there with in Georgia, having Ruby Malin as the starter and losing in that fashion. Not the best. This OSU team this year just is so... I'm just not used to watching an Oklahoma State team give up 5 errors in a game. And the defense has been inconsistent. The offense has been inconsistent. Ruby's been fantastic. I'm not coming at Ruby at all. She's been incredible. No pitcher is perfect every single game, every single appearance in the circle. So, but you're looking at an Oklahoma State team who, like, I'm used to seeing 1 or 2 in fielding in conference play. They're sitting at 3rd, which is fine, but you look at the offense, you say, okay, well, they're 5th in batting average. Yeah, but they're 8th in RBI so far. They're behind Iowa State and Utah. They're tied with Kansas. I said Iowa State and Utah. They're behind both of them. The offense. I love my Cowgirls, but they are they're stressing me out this year. I was hoping for a 3-1 weekend, so the one's out of the way. So here's hoping for 3 straight wins. Jenna, what are your thoughts on Oklahoma State's trip out to the Peach State?
Well, I mean, you're right. So the consistency has been lacking in terms of the end result. You're right. Certain things have been pretty consistent. Ruby Malin's actually on track for possibly a career year, if you're just looking at stats. But I think I remember talking with Kenny Gajewski earlier leading into the season. And I know we were talking about before, Lea, before we even hopped on, that they tend to peak at the right time. They do know how to sort of reset for the postseason in particular. I remember asking him, because they do a team trip every year before postseason, leading into it, before around the Big 12 tournament, to Broken Bow, total break from everything, and just sort of reset as a group. And I think their record is something stupid after doing that into the postseason. Like, they only have a couple of losses in regards to like that particular trip. So I think they just have some of those levers to pull in their system, or if you will, or the culture that they've created there with Kenny G. Now, with that being said, we're at the end of March, so there's some time before maybe that comes together for them. But I would think that they would come out on top. It's just a matter of, I guess, which Oklahoma State shows up that day. But all the pieces are there for them to be successful.
They're giving Phillip a heart attack. Hopefully the good one shows up, so Phillip is okay and sleep at night.
I didn't even care about basketball season. I put all my eggs in my softball basket.
Literally, you did. Every time I was like, "Did you see the game?" And you're like, "No, I don't have enough
softball season."
Yeah,
I'm not stressing that. I'm getting ready for softball season.
Exactly.
Okay. Arizona traveling to BYU, which I think is like I said, it's an interesting weekend. It's not a lot of matchups you look at and go, oh, the best team. It's a really interesting series. BYU coming off their sweep of Houston, hosting Arizona. I mean, from a pitching standpoint, look, every time I predict some series to be like low scoring, there's going to be 2 games that are 8-7, 10-11. Every time I predict a game to be high scoring, you get Iowa State, UCF. So, Iowa State sweeps the series, scoring 6 total runs. So I'm going to assume we get a really interesting pitching matchup here, and where offense, even with the way Arizona hits the ball, but we know BYU can explode for offense in games. So I fully expect Arizona to win 1 by a lot and BYU to win 1 by a lot, and then we'll see what happens in game 3. Because again, it's so hard to sweep, and BYU, it's not like they're not familiar with this Arizona program, and Arizona's not familiar with BYU. So, but I'll take Arizona 2-1, being on the road. But I'm just like, this should be an interesting series. I'm really excited to kind of follow this one throughout the weekend.
I think you nailed it on the head. It's hard to predict these 2 teams, but I think Arizona's going to come out 2-1, but I could see them being, even though pitching is great, I could see them being very high scoring games. The ball flies differently in Provo, so I wouldn't be surprised with, lots of home runs happening.
I would agree. I think first of all, we're talking about the top offense in the Big 12, right? In multiple categories with Arizona. The ball flies in Tucson too. So they're going to be loving it. They'll feel at home, if you will, in that sort of way. But I do think they come out on top. Part of me would maybe earlier in the season, I might have said, okay, I think Arizona sweeps. It might be pretty tough, like we were saying, and especially with the momentum that BYU has. Yeah, I think it's probably 2-1 as well.
But you mentioned their team ERA is the only one below 2. It's because their top 3 pitchers all have ERAs below 2. Like, we talk about Case and Korth all the time, but Kate Dahl and Jada of Villegas are all sub 2 ERA. Like, they're all good. They've all been very good in the circle. And so we know Arizona's offense is good. We know that BYU's offense can explode. And so while I kind of think we might get a pitching duel in one of the games, I'm also, like I said, not going to be shocked if we have a couple games where there's some offense because both these teams can hit. We know Arizona can score, and we've seen BYU. I mean, I know it's Utah Valley, but they won 14-0 this past week. Like, they can hit the ball.
Yeah,
right.
I think high scoring too. I'm with you guys.
Yeah. Okay. This to me is the most interesting one of the weekend. And I know it's 2 of the bottom half of the standings teams, but Houston is hosting Utah. It's a Houston team who just got swept by BYU. Utah, we've talked about 2 young teams. Can Houston's still on that, like, if they could find a way to get some top 50 wins, they could push themselves into a potential regional opportunity at the end of the season. But you're going to host a Utah team that we just saw take 2 from Kansas. You don't want to drop a game to Utah with the way their RPI is and the way Houston's schedule is because they didn't play anybody and they haven't beaten anybody. I'm really intrigued by this series because I want to see what Utah does after their series win last week. I want to see how Houston bounces back. At the end of the season, this series may not matter for much beyond seeding in the Big 12 tournament, but it's 2 programs, like I said, because I want to keep an eye towards 26. I'm just really interested in what these 2 teams do against each other this weekend.
I think it will be interesting because, Utah, if I were them, like, you kind of have nothing to lose. Like, you're having a tough season, work on some things, but Houston's kind of still in that gray area of, like, could we do really, really well? Or could we kind of blow it? And so I don't know if the pressure is going to be on the Houston team to really, like, have to win all 3 of these games against Utah, where Utah could go out and just be like, all right, let's see what we can do. We're coming off of a 2-1, series against Kansas. Like, we're feeling good. Things are starting to click. I think it's going to be really interesting. I honestly have no idea how it's going to turn out. No idea.
Just cover my eyes and throw a dart at the board, and I'll take that one. Jenna, what are your thoughts here?
I kind of feel similarly. I mean, I don't think there's a way of Utah's going to take a game, in my opinion. I just, if we want to talk about weather and get back into that category, it's totally opposite in a lot of ways, right? A lot of humidity, all of those things that's different for Utah. But when I think of both these teams, there's a little bit of chaos. And I just think that when you bring it together, that's only going to increase. So I'm with you.
I love that. That's such a perfect way to put it.
This is a chaos series for this week. I mean, look, in fielding, in the Big 12, Utah's 11th, Houston's 10th. In pitching, Houston's 11th, Utah's 8th. In batting, Houston's 3rd and Utah's 6th. So, like, Utah's taking one of these. I'll take Houston 2-1. I don't feel confident or comfortable. Lea, please take this question in the way that it is intended. Purely from an inquisitive nature. You talked about Utah's, like, nothing to lose mindset. When you're a program that's like, we're probably not making the postseason, we're probably not gonna make it a regional unless we make some run in the conference tournament. When you get to this point in the year and it's all just about what can we do? We don't have as much stress and pressure because there's a certain mindset, I assume, of, like, it's not, the season's not over, but that goal is gone. How does that change when you start to go play and do series like this?
It completely changes. I mean, I've been in that place where, like, my senior year, for example, like, we did not start off great. We knew, like, we weren't going to make the postseason unless we won the Big 12 tournament, which was going to be tough. But you kind of switch things and you work on different things. You find ways to have fun. You try to steal games from certain teams. Like, this sounds horrible, but you try to ruin people's days. And you even try to ruin people's seasons. And we had done it before. I mean, like, we always bring it up at the Oklahoma State series, like, that we should have never, I shouldn't say never, but like on paper, Iowa State was never going to win that game, and then they come out and win. And it happens like all the time. You really just try to do what you can, work on different things, find ways to enjoy the game, because no one wants to continue to play a season where you know you're probably not going to make the tournament and just be miserable and like not enjoy the game and just be like, oh, here we go, we're going to lose another game. Who wants to play softball like that? Softball's supposed to be fun, even though it's so difficult. It's supposed to be enjoyable. You're supposed to spend time with your teammates and learn new things and try different things. But 1000% your mindset changes. And it's like kind of a, you know, whatever happens. Like, let's go steal one. Let's see what we can do. And then you kind of build that momentum because you win a game that you maybe weren't supposed to. And then it's like, well, who else could we beat? Oh, let's be a higher ranked team. Let's keep going. And then but then the bad mindset comes in and it's like, well, what if we would have done this right at the beginning of the year and the whole season? And then it's kind of like, oh man, like, wow, we really could have been playing like this whole time. But yeah, your whole mindset changes and it's kind of like, we have nothing to lose.
Okay. It's almost like you're more dangerous. I agree.
Yes.
1,000%. I actually think that mindset is what got Utah the Pac-12 tournament championship 2 years ago. Literally. They were just like, where all of it's out there. We're leaving everything on the field. That's it. And look what they did. Went to the World Series, all that stuff. So totally agree.
It's dangerous. That's a great way to put it. It's dangerous for everyone in their way, including Oklahoma State. I'm just going to keep egging it on, Phillip, because it's cracking me up.
Look, Eric's not here, so I'll just take the brunt of everything.
I know, someone's got to take it. And I'm not going to do that to Jenna.
Well, and, you know, had my alma mater been in the Big 12, which with the realignment, you know what?
You
never
never
say never at this point. I feel like I would be taking more shots, but I appreciate you guys being kind. Yeah.
Baylor's hosting UCF. UCF, of course, coming off the win over Florida, as I mentioned, much needed win after a 1-6 run with the 7 games before that. Baylor, I mean, they got one from Oklahoma State, who got shut out by a Baylor team that I don't know. It's okay. I wonder if this win over Florida got UCF a little bit of its juice back. And again, Baylor shutting out Oklahoma State is one of the most shocking things because Baylor's pitching has not been that this season. And if UCF's kind of figured out their offense again and got the bats going like they were earlier in the year, again, I don't like picking sweeps, but this is the series I would look at and say, actually the next one might be good shot for UCF to sweep, but I'll take UCF 2-1 here.
I have to agree. It's so tough to sweep. I think UCF they felt the win against Arizona, and then they felt the loss going 1-6, and now I think they're back in it, like you said, against Florida. I think they're going to be kind of a different team now, but Baylor sneaks them away. They still know softball. Coach Moore is a great coach. He knows what he's doing. So yeah, 2-1 for sure.
I think I agree. I mean, despite their struggles this year, I don't think Baylor's just the type of program that you can write off completely. No. They're just not. And UCF, I feel like, we always talk about trying not to get too high or too low as players, as coaches, as a program. That's hard to do when the results are really up and down. And they've kind of been a little bit of a yo-yo, specifically this week, even with the getting swept and then beating Florida. But I still think that they take the momentum to win the series, but I think it would be tough to sweep. So I'm with you both.
But Coach Paul Malone said on the show that the motto of this team was Weebles Wobble. They don't fall down. And I told her that the song of the team needed to just be wobble, baby wobble, baby wobble, baby wobble. And that's how the season has kind of gone for them, has been.
Yeah.
It weeble wobble, but they do not fall apart. They find a way to bounce back up, and the win over Florida is exactly the example of that. The last series is Kansas hosting Texas Tech. I'm sorry, Kansas.
Yeah.
This is the one. If I'm going to pick a sweep, it's going to be this one. It's not just that you're going to have to face Nyjah. Kansas's offense, like I know they've had some games, but I still don't think you're going to do much against her. And Riasetto has been pitching, honestly, pretty well as a number 2 for Texas Tech. And the bats are hitting. I will pick a sweep here for Texas Tech on the road.
I would agree. I think Kansas seems a little deflated. It's tough when you're, not doing too hot. And I think just playing Texas Tech is just going to add to that. Texas Tech is obviously a great team, and I think they're gonna struggle. So I'm with you. A sweep for Texas Tech, if you will.
Yeah, I think the brooms come out. I'm with you both. Yeah, because Texas Tech does have more than just Nyjah as well. Not just more in the circle, but they do have some bats that can come out and things. I just think it's a lot to overcome for Kansas.
Here's hoping Kansas doesn't blow what they're doing right now, which again, I'm not going to say the score. We're just going to leave it at that. You're all welcome to check when this drops Thursday morning and see if they did the thing or not. Jenna, thank you so much for joining us this week. It is always a pleasure to have you on the show. We need to get you back on whether Eric's here or not. Do me a favor. You do a great job covering all of college softball. Where can they find your work?
Yes, so all over, but especially at D1 Softball. So that's the handle for all the social channels, including YouTube. We have our podcast as well. And of course, Eric's in the Circle podcast. And then Bleav in Softball is another podcast that I do separately. And it's the Bleav Network is BLEAV to clarify. And then you can just me individually, Jenna Becerra 01 for Twitter, and then just Jenna Becerra for Instagram. I don't know what it is about former players where we can't let go of our number and our handle, but that's still me on Twitter, apparently.
No, that's funny. That's funny.
That's good. Jenna, you do a ton. It's all great. As always, thank you for joining us. Lea.
What?
I'm done with you for today.
What? I'm like, what do you got to say?
Nothing.
What do you got to say?
I have
That's
nothing
fine.
left. Okay? I have nothing left. Okay? All right. You're no more. All right. Angelina Allen coming up next. Y'all enjoy the weekend. We will have something on Monday. If I tell you what it is, it won't happen. We'll just leave it at that. Enjoy the softball.
This episode is brought to you by Walmart. New beauty is in bloom at Walmart, and it's all about springtime radiance. From Drybar, Tula Skincare, and hundreds more available online, Walmart has the premium brands you want and this season's on-trend products for flawless, glossy hair and hydrated skin. Big name beauty brands? Check. The things you love? Check. Find trending spring beauty and all you need to look and feel gorgeous at Walmart, on app and online.
After an absolutely huge weekend and one of the biggest upsets, at least in the Big 12, if not in the country, we had to go back to Iowa State for our guest this week. Very excited to have on the show for the very first time, Angelina Allen. Angelina, welcome to the 1012.
Hello.
Very excited to have you here today. I mean, we have to start off with this past weekend. I mean, you guys, you and your team going down to Orlando and sweeping UCF. I don't think there's anybody maybe outside of your locker room that had any belief that something like this could happen, let alone win the series, but sweep all 3 games. But what was the mindset of the team going into this weekend? What do you think it was that gave you and your team the ability to go down to Orlando and sweep UCF in 3 games?
Yeah, I think honestly this season hasn't been going exactly how we wanted, and of course every season's not going to go exactly how we wanted. And so just going back every weekend we kind of just go out the same of our goal is to play our game. Our goal is to not worry about our opponent. We know UCF, and UCF is still a very, very good team, and we know what kind of battle it would have been. And so just going out there and kind of just playing free and being able to just, hey, we're going to just give it our all no matter what. And we're especially going off of playing Ole Miss the weekend before. That was really good preparation for us to just go out there and just play our game and see what happens. And I think hands down, our pitchers just dominated. Our pitchers really held us in. Of these games, we scored 6 runs that weekend. That's it. Usually that's a game for most teams. And so our pitchers really held it down for us, and our defense also gave us a chance for the hitters to kind of work through some things. And so I really think it's just we played our game. And this is what Iowa State softball can always be. And so it just ended up being this weekend, and it all aligned perfectly. So it was super exciting.
You talked about the pitching staff. Look, you are a senior. You've been a captain on this team for multiple seasons. This is a really young roster that you're a part of this year. And obviously that young roster's growth has to happen. How would you kind of grade where this team is, especially the pitching staff now compared to the beginning of the season?
Mm-hmm. I think we're only on our way up. I think, with being a young team, there's like a positive and negative. Young, nobody knows us. Nobody knows our pitching that much. Nobody knows a lot of our hitters. But then on the side of you are a young team playing in collegiate softball where it's mentally tolling more than even physically tolling. And so I don't know exactly the grade I would give, but I just see our pitching staff just growing and growing. And we have girls who are committed to growing. We know that we have failed in games past. And so every week I see our coach Kate going with them and just coming up with a new game plan and really committing to be better than the weekend before. And I think if we continue to do that, we'll get the best out of us.
What did you guys see in this UCF team that you took into the weekend that you felt like you were going to be able to kind of take advantage of to get you these 3 wins?
I mean, they just kept us in the game consistently. And we did too. We didn't score a lot on them. So it was really who was going to make that first mistake or really get that first advantage. And so we just made sure to not worry about what they're doing, to continue to try to win every single inning. That if we scored a run, we're not going to let them score a run. Or if we didn't score a run, we're going to just go 0 for 0 against them and kind of just play our game to beat them and not really worry about what they were doing or what they their game plan. Because again, that is softball. They're going to come with us with their best. And then once you beat them, they're going to come with another game plan and another best. And so just being able to play and adjust to our game and not really worry about try to overanalyze what they were going to do.
I feel like that's the biggest sign of growth of this team. It's not just that they won the 3 games. It's the way that the games are won. Because you look at some of Iowa State's, your team's struggles this season, and it is that youth of not knowing how to close out games, not knowing how to, when you're in those tight spots in the 6th and 7th inning, holding the other team at bay so that you can get the win. We saw you guys had an incredible performance against Ole Miss that didn't go your way in the end. And so I feel like this past weekend in Orlando, we really started to kind of see the potential in some of the growth for this team as learning how to close out close games. Because again, holding UCF to as low a scoring as you did, as you mentioned, you guys put up 6 runs and went 3-0. That's hard to do no matter who you are and who the opponent is. And so to see your team able to close games out close like that and battle all the way through, I think was a huge sign of progress and obviously what the coaching staff is doing to try and build this team and this program for the future.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's always, not even just this year, that has been something that we've honed on all 4 of my years, is just being able to close out a game, being defensively, letting that pressure not get to us and letting us just continue win inning by inning and not think, I need to win this whole game. I need to win this specific time period right now. And so, yeah, I fully agree. I think we took a step this weekend in that, of being able to just forget about the whole game. We're winning this one right now, and it paid off for us. So,
as I mentioned, this is your senior year. It's your final year of playing, and it is a young roster. How much, obviously, as a captain for multiple seasons, you've had to be a leader. What's the difference between having to be kind of a leader this year for this roster as opposed to last season?
Yeah. Well, the past 2 years I was captain. I was co-captain with Malaysia Ochoa, who hands down one of the best players I've ever played with, one of the best captains I've ever been with as well. Of both of our leadership styles really went hand in hand. And so this year I had to kind of step out of my box of what kind of leader I was going to be, but then also taking a step back and letting a lot of our younger girls kind of step into a different role. We have Jessie Clemens and Serenity Trice kind of stepping up into a leadership role of not only me leading this team, but also thinking of the future of I need to prepare some of these girls to be leaders next year because I'm gone after this year. And so being able to not only stay in this like captain position, but also take a step back and let other girls kind of lead this team a little bit also has helped me kind of be more present in my senior year as well. I've had countless talks with my coaches of putting a lot of pressure on, I need to get this, I need to do this for this year. But I done what I need to do for this team. I've made an impact on this team. And so let me play free and let the younger girls kind of bring in what they bring to this team. Because this team is so young and it's so new and it's going to be a new program of Iowa State now. And so letting them kind of develop that on their own while keeping some of the stuff that I value for our team.
You're in the midst of the season. There's still a lot of softball left to be played, but has it started to sink in that this is your final year of playing college softball? I'm sure you can continue to play softball if you'd like. There's professional leagues that continue to pop up across the country. Obviously, you can play for fun, but being the last year of competitive college softball, has that started to sink in at all for you?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we just went on an 8-week travel schedule, rigorous. And so, and now I have one more plane ride for the rest of my season of little things like that. I'm like, wow, it's slowly ticking, but I'm trying to not think of it too much, of just, again, staying in the present, of really enjoying it a little bit more than I think. The season started off rough and I was like, oh no, I needed to do so much to finish out strong. But I think right now I'm in a good state of, I'm just staying present. I'm going to enjoy our home opener this weekend, enjoy just being with my girls for one last time. And so it's slowly getting there. It's slowly ticking, thinking about, we've had messages about senior weekend, talking to my parents about when they're coming out, and just so it's slowly coming, but just trying to kind of keep it weekend to weekend and really enjoy the moment.
So you set me up for my next question, of course. For those who don't realize, Iowa State has not played a home game yet this season. It is March 26th. We are almost 2 months into the season. You guys are playing your first home games against Arizona State this Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I mean, what is that like? I mean, it's obviously you're in Iowa. It's cold for a long time. You got to deal with issues of snow and weather. You guys don't have lights to do night games. So it is hard to play home games early in the year. And so taking this long to finally get to be at home for a game, we had Coach Pinkerton on last week, and you guys really haven't even got to practice at home that much. So how big is it for you to finally be at the stage of the season where you're able to be at home, play at home, practice at home, and just be there in Ames?
Yeah. I think, trust me, every girl on our team is so happy to be in their own bed. And so I think we pride ourselves on being strong, and we pride ourselves on being able to do hard things. And that was hard, of being on the road for 8 weekends straight. Not a lot of programs do that. And so of appreciating we just did a really hard thing, and we found success in a hard thing of, now we get to be home. What a privilege and what a blessing that we get to kind of just play freely here and be here for 2 weeks. 2 weeks at home, that's a dream. I get to go to class. I get to eat dinner at SBC. So I think us traveling for that long makes us the team who we are, because we know we can go through harder things than a lot of other programs. But being home, we're just very excited. We just got a new addition in our locker room, a set up mirrors and everything. And so we're so excited to kind of just be as a team in our home field. And so we're just really excited.
How do you get past this past weekend at UCF and those wins and come home and be prepared to face another really good team in Arizona State having a great season? Kenzie Brown is fantastic in the circle for them. It's another big challenge for your program. How do you kind of get past last weekend while still kind of build momentum out of what you were able to do in Orlando?
Yeah, Sunday we celebrated. That was my first sweep in my whole collegiate career. So I took that in, and I was so proud of our team. And I even had like old alumni even like text me and be like, wow, like that's awesome. And so we really celebrated that. But then we also know that we could have been 10 times better last weekend. We did only score 6 runs. We were not perfect in those 3 games of winning. And so really highlighting what we did good, but in our practices yesterday, we really focused on where do we need to be better. And so going into this week, we're kind of like that weekend is past us now, and like where can we grow to be better, because we know Arizona State is also really good. And so I think just growing off of those weekends of celebrate it when we can, but know that we are always trying to push for better and better and better so we can get to where we want to be.
Do you have any goals for this season, your final year, that you have not yet been able to I mean, you just said first sweep of your collegiate career, so you've got that one box checked off. Any other goals and things you want to try and achieve and do before your career comes to an end?
My goal every year has been wanting to go to regionals, and so we're still knocking on that door. And so I think if we could just keep playing how we play, we might get there, we might not, and that is okay. But that's always been my goal, is to go to postseason. And so I think that's one that if I marked off, I'm be so proud of, but not the end of my season, not the end of my career if we don't. So that's always a goal that I have in mind. And then also I just want to leave a bigger impact on this team. I know that we have a bunch of young girls, so I'm just hoping that we can kind of keep the stride that we're going and not go into a rut or a valley when we're facing these really big teams like OSU, like ASU, and like all these teams. I hope that we kind of keep steady and keep that climb, so then next season they know that we can easily beat these teams, and that we can start off a little stronger than what we did before.
I'm glad I have you, because I've been wanting to ask a player this for some time, and obviously we have Lea Nelson, who helps co-host the show each week, and you guys, it's so much fun. I know you've had plenty of interactions with Lea. But Iowa State's a program, so long as Coach Pinkerton's been there, it doesn't bring a lot of transfers in, but that's because he doesn't see players leave very often. And a player of your talent and of your level, I'm sure, has had opportunities to go to other places where I'm going to use air quotes, easier to get to a regional, like you mentioned. But you have stayed in Iowa State, you've stayed in Ames, and it seems like for the most part, his rosters do that. What is it about Coach Pinkerton and this staff and Iowa State where players just don't seem to leave much?
At the end of the day, like, as much as it is about softball, it's also about post-college. And I think Coach Pink and just the whole staff, they really hone in of, I am more than just a softball player, of I am able to do a lot of other things besides this. And so I've been captain for 3 years. I've started all my 4 years of, why would I leave this? And not only that, of I have so many great friends and great opportunities here. I love it here. And so like there's always been that like what if, but I think a lot of girls, we're known to be loyal. Iowa State players are known to be loyal. I came from a travel ball program, Kern Angels. You don't leave. And like when you sign that letter, Marty Tyson tells you, we are loyal, we are true to our team. And so that's just something that is just like kind of engraved here, of you're just loyal to your team. And so I don't know, I would never trade. I would never like go back and make a different decision ever again, because I know what the opportunities have came because of being here at Iowa State. Of maybe those opportunities wouldn't have been if I went anywhere else. And so I just think that it's just how it was supposed to be. And I really enjoyed here.
That's awesome. Look at, I don't fault anyone for transferring, leaving a program, joining another. Like this, that freedom is a wonderful thing that players have deserved for a long time. But it is also, it's always interesting to get a perspective on some programs players leave, some programs players don't. And so I'm always really curious. And so thank you for your answer. That's fantastic. I texted Lea before we got on our call here, because I wanted to say, like, is there anything I should ask Angelina about? And what she told me, and I'm really interested in this, is the fact that you have been interning with some Major League Baseball programs.
Yeah.
Tell me a bit about that experience, and what your goal ultimately is there by taking these internships.
Yeah, so it kind of started, I came into Iowa State undecided engineering. I didn't really know exactly what I wanted to do, went through a lot of mid-college crises of, oh my gosh, what am I doing with my life? Changed my major a couple times. But I didn't really get into like the baseball side until Sammy Williams, best player that came through Iowa State. She is a software engineer for the Cubs. And she kind of talked to me about her experience working in baseball and kind of doing what she like this technical side. And I was like, whoa, I can stay in a sport that I really love and still kind of do my nerdy, geeky stuff. Like, cool. And so that kind of inspired me to get into this. And so my first experience was after my sophomore year. I went to Chicago, worked with elite baseball training, and they do like hitting assessments there. And so that was kind of my first like step into baseball. A lot of my work was like learning the technical stuff, but then I worked like baseball camps. And so I had to learn how to hang out with little like 12-year-old boys and how to deal with them. I'm a daughter. I have a sister. Like, I don't have any other boys in my life. And so I'm not used to hanging out with guys all the time. So it was definitely a fun experience of learning to find my voice in a place that really isn't like, it's not female dominated. So yeah, that was my first experience. And then last summer, I had the amazing opportunity to go to New York and work for the New York Yankees. And I was in front office with them and I did baseball operations. And that was just a once in a lifetime opportunity of baseball operations and just the front office. That's really not where my mind was leaning. It was very administrative, but I got to just see how baseball ran from like the background and not just, I know the sport. I know the playing, and that's what I've lived all my life. And so seeing how the trade works, seeing how just little operations of figuring out how to expand a dugout, how to value a player money wise. And so it was definitely a really cool experience that taught me a little bit more about baseball I didn't know. And then now this coming summer, I'm going to be in Arizona working with the Arizona League for the Dodgers, and I'll be a player development intern. And so this is kind of where I want to like lead my life into, is to kind of work on technology that helps players grow. And so if that's in pitching, if that's in hitting, whatever they want me to do, I'm open arms and kind of just really get into that. And so this is an experience I'm super excited, and it gets me a little bit closer to home. So I don't know, baseball it's just such a fun sport, and it definitely I watch baseball now like religiously. Opening day is tomorrow and I'm so excited. And so it's definitely helped me kind of shape me as a player as well. Of I'll sit there and just watch people swing and I'm like, wow, I want my swing to look like that. It doesn't, but it's just something that I really am into. And so, and I bond with it with my boyfriend back home, and also like just other girls around me. We have Victoria Parado. She's a big Dodger fan. I'm a Padre fan. So during the World Series in October, it was a little heated between us, but it was all good.
That's awesome. Look, it's the story of meandering through college to figure out what it is you want to do is a pretty common story. Don't feel bad, but to find the thing you want to do and have the opportunities you've now had to grow in that and learn. I think that is so cool. So how have you taken what you've learned so far from these internships and for baseball, and how have you applied them to what you were doing with Iowa State softball?
Yeah, and so after my sophomore year season just wasn't my best season, and so I really not only wanting to work, but also just to kind of figure out my swing a little bit more. And at Elite Baseball, they helped me they put me on the force plates, they put me on K-Vest, and I kind of changed my swing a little bit, and it helped tremendously. I had one of the biggest growths in my season from sophomore to junior year. And so that was a really cool experience to not only I got to work and analyze hitters and like younger hitters, it helped me kind of understand my own swing a little bit more and what I'm feeling and looking for as a hitter myself. And then last year was very much of not me focusing on like myself, but more of my career. And so I got to learn a lot of game stuff that the Yankees did. And I'm like, wow, why doesn't softball kind of do this a little bit more? And so it was definitely more of not my personal, like, softball was changed, but just how I viewed softball and how I viewed, like, game strategy was a lot different. I learned a lot from that last year. And so I think just every summer I've taken like little bits and pieces and seen like how it can correlate to softball. And I think softball is behind baseball when it comes to like the technological like advances, but I constantly see it growing. And so kind of trying to introduce that each time I do a project for a class or have the opportunity to work with our pitching coach and our like Rhapsody and stuff like that. So it's finding the little things that I can correlate it from baseball to kind of make this experience hand in hand.
And I think that's great. And look, you see more and more baseball being brought in as far as coaches across the country for college softball. You're seeing more baseball influence on college softball. I think obviously there are things that baseball are doing, as you mentioned, that can work for softball and help continue to grow and advance softball. And so I think that's awesome. Look, spend some time in baseball. You may end up back in college softball, helping to grow the sport here one day, which I would assume would be pretty cool for you.
Yeah, that'd be an awesome experience.
That's awesome. Okay. So I want to say thank you for joining us today. It's been awesome to chat with you. It's been a lot of fun. I've got a few questions to ask to wrap this up that we ask everybody, just some fun stuff before we get you out of here. Okay. So number one is, what is your walk-up song this year?
So I have two. I have Lift My Hands by Forrest Frank, and it's just a really good praise worship song to kind of guide me to what I play for. And then I have California Dreamin', and it's like an EDM remix. I had to bring it back senior year, back to home, and so my parents really appreciated that one. So
very good. Okay, peanut butter and jelly. What is your jelly of choice?
Strawberry. I'm not a peanut butter person though, but if I do have a peanut butter and jelly, strawberry jelly all the time.
I think that was Coach Pinkerton's answer too. So
okay.
You guys just make one and split it. That'll be good for you.
Yeah.
Okay. What's your game day ritual?
Game day ritual depends. Like, I'm like, I got an old arm, so I have to do my workouts before, like my arm workouts. But then, kind of, it just depends who's my roommate. So I kind of fit the vibe of my roommate. So if they like music, we'll play music while we're getting ready, and then. At home, it's very much of I do my hair here, get to the field, do my PT, get my jersey on. Probably I get there way before people because I don't like being in a crowded space and trying to get dressed. It's just stressful. So I get there way too early and I just sit there for like 30 minutes and just watch people have fun, dance. I'm a very low key person when it comes to game day. I'm not the need to get amped up. I need to calm down because I have anxiety. And so it's definitely, I'm the mellow type of person, kind of just watching, observing, and fitting the vibes of other people.
What's your favorite win of your career?
Oh, I think last year winning the series against OSU, that was a crazy experience, and seeing especially some of like the older girls kind of succeed in moments that like for their senior year, that was a really special moment last year. I think another like just game that I remember so much is last year in Vegas. I got to play in front of my whole entire family. And awesome. I like had a really good weekend that weekend and hit a couple home runs in front of them. And like, I just remember coming out of that and seeing my like family, like my mom's a crier, mom crying, my grandma crying. I'm like, oh my gosh, like that, they are the reason why I play, that like they put so much into me. And so being able to do that in front of them was very special.
Very nice. Okay. Would you rather hit a walk-off home run or rob a game-winning home run at the wall?
Walk-off home run. I'm a hitter. I love outfield, and when I switched to outfield, it was fun. I'm a hitter. I will love to hit a walk-off home run. I don't know if I've done that in my collegiate career yet. Maybe that's something I need to add to my list, because I know that feeling is just so good.
That's awesome. Okay. Last one. You said you're kind of the quiet one. You're more the reserve. Who is the biggest trash talker on this team?
Oh, we have a lot of chirpers on our team, and I think one ultimate chirper of all time, Lea Nelson. She hands out. Yes. Iowa State chirper. On this team right now, Paige Nakashima is up there. She learned from Lea, and so they were hand in hand. So Lea needs to know that the chirping is still running through Iowa State, and Paige Nakashima she's leading that pack right there.
All right, so I'm going to have to get Paige and Lea together and see if we can have a trash off.
Yeah, and Lea might have some competition. Paige is getting better. She's good. She's really good.
I'll bring that up to Lea when we chat tonight. Okay. Angela, you've been awesome. Thank you so much for your time. Again, congrats on the sweep this past weekend. And
thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your senior season. It's been a great career, and I hope to see you able to finish it off strong with your team.
Thank you so much.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.